And as you may or may not know, Wonderful likes to support women, and every single month, a portion of your membership goes to different beneficiaries. And this month, it's going to Rise Travel Institute, which is inspiring sustainable and regenerative travel through education. So you can follow them on Instagram and learn more. And also, for every paid Wonderful membership, we offer a scholarship to a woman in need. So if you can think of someone who might not have the funds to join Wonderful, you can use this link right here and have them apply for a scholarship. Oops. Okay. And now I'd love to introduce to you today's presenter, Leah Arau. Leah is an event manager, podcast consultant, and co-host of the Ticket to Anywhere podcast. So definitely check out her podcast. After living in, teaching, and working throughout South America and Australia, Leah brings you practical information about how to simplify your travels, avoid mosquito bites, make new friends on the road, pack, plan your budget, and how to find the best coffee shops on the road. And you can check out her YouTube. She put the link right there in the chat. You'll find Leah dishing out all of the travel talk on Instagram, TikTok, and her podcast, which is also on YouTube. So just let's get social. If you're not already following Wonderful, you can find us on Facebook and on Instagram. And if you're not already following Leah, you can find her on TikTok, Instagram, find her podcast. You can find her on YouTube. The link is in the bio, and I'll put some links in there as well. Ooh, I'm sorry that my computer is thinking faster than I am. And we just want to thank our brand partners because it's not possible without them. Before I turn it over to Leah, if you have any questions along the way, and you can go ahead and type them in the chat. I'm going to be moderating the chat throughout. We're going to let Leah complete her whole presentation, and we'll save plenty of time for Q&A at the end. So if you don't want to forget your question, just type it in there and I will ask it to her at the end, and you can have all your questions answered. So don't want to miss out on that. And without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing so Leah can start sharing her presentation, and I'm going to let her take it away. So thanks so much, Leah.
Thank you so much for that intro, Callie. I just want to say how much I love this wonderful group. I'm so excited to be here. I've been a member since last August, and I just find the events incredible. So I was really excited when you put up that slide saying, here's what's upcoming. So if anyone else in the room can join them, please do. I am going to go ahead and share my screen via Canva. And we can get started. And like Callie said, definitely go ahead, drop any and all questions in the chat. Also your stories and your lived experiences as well. I'm always trying to learn from others. And, you know, I'm sure your question, your story may help or inform anyone else in the audience. So let's make this as interactive as possible. So my name is Leah, also known as LA in Flight. This is getting out and meeting people while traveling. So this is a little bit about who I am. Callie explained a lot. I am a solo and a slow traveler. I've been traveling the world for a little over a decade, meeting friends, traveling alone. I try to make genuine friendships and connections with foreigners and locals alike wherever I go. I am a podcaster myself. I'm also a podcaster consultant, used to be like former converted budget traveler. Now I'm like a flash packer because I'm spending a little bit more money than I used to a few years ago. And an auntie, hype woman, most of all a connector. I love connecting people I know with whatever they're looking for or whoever they're looking for. I try to, you know. So this presentation, it details how I've met people on the road, become good friends with them, kept those friendships alive. There's a lot of stories sprinkled in, and I'll even use, I'm prepping to go to Bali in a few weeks. So I'll use some examples I'll throw some of those examples into this presentation as well. I do believe everyone has their own unique story, and meeting people wherever you go definitely keeps your connection to that particular place. So a few of the main topics that we'll touch on today: how to find events as a first-time visitor, whether you're in the US or you're abroad, designing your trip so that you're more likely to meet people, great conversation starters. I'd love to hear others from other people, because sometimes it's a swing and a miss for me. I don't exactly, hit it off every time. Combating loneliness on the road, because that is a real thing and I've experienced it myself. Like, no matter how extroverted or around people you can be, there's a lot of times where, you may feel lonely. That's fine. Tips for keeping friendships alive after you've gone home. You know what I want to say about, I've done this presentation once before for Nomadic Network, which is, like a sister organization to Wonderful. And a lot of these tips you can apply for being at home in your hometown and not traveling as well. So that's what I really like about this. I know there are a few times in my life where I've come home from a big change and I've had to kind of not reassess my friend group, but I'm in a different part in life. And I'm like, okay, now I'm going to put myself back out there to make some new friends, because I don't know, those friends were a different season, a different me. So I've used a lot of these tips in everyday life as well. And of course, before, just some like gentle, friendly reminders, be open-minded, get a little bit out of your comfort zone. Even if it's a little tiny bit out of your comfort zone, it's still out of your comfort zone. That's what matters. Check your gut and trust it. Like, something just doesn't feel right, don't move forward with it. Like, I don't know how much more I can say about that. I haven't checked my gut and trusted it so many times, and luckily nothing crazy has ever happened, but I just can't imagine, not doing that. Especially I think the older and more aware I become, it's like, something doesn't feel right, don't do it, right? And, enjoy the journey of learning to be comfortable with your own company first. That doesn't happen overnight. It takes years. I'm still doing it. And it's been over a decade of learning to be okay alone. I think when I was younger, this is like a little bit of vulnerability. I always had to be around people. I had to be in the middle of a crowd. I had to make sure people liked me. And I'm like, that's not necessarily, that's not how it is all the time. So first step, this is the fun part: narrow down your interests or refer to your bucket list. This will start the process of deciding like where you even want to travel, where you want to go, deciding how and how often you can meet others. So these could be things like I said here, attending a festival, exploring a world wonder, getting your PADI certification, which is like open water diving, or like taking a cooking class in every country. So when I went to the Philippines in 2020, right before the pandemic started, my one goal was to hang out with my family, which I did a lot. And the second goal was to be on a boat as much as humanly possible. And I checked that off too. And that's how I made some great connections, because I was seeking out events where I'm like, how can I get onto this boat? How can I take this boat tour? And for Bali upcoming, my goals, and whether I meet people or not in Bali, because I am going for a family wedding, it's fine if I don't, but if I do, I'm really into coffee. If you go to any of my social media, you'll see that I do love coffee as well. And I want to get into it on a deeper level. Like, I love going to explore coffee farms wherever I am. I love knowing the process where the coffee comes from. I know there's a bunch of coffee tours in Bali as well. I definitely want to take a cooking class. I want to be in the water as much as possible, and I want to take a street food tour. So those are like my 4 things, mainly focused around food, drink, and nature, essentially. This kind of seems counterintuitive, and these are just things that I've tried, but turn online to meet people in real life. And these are things that I actually do before every trip. And some people may be of the mindset, just go there and make friends, but one, that doesn't always work. 2, there's nothing wrong with doing a little prep before you go, especially if you have time, right? So I actually reordered this before we started in the order that I find people to connect with in that country. So as much as some will say Facebook's a little outdated. I still love the Facebook group function, and you can search in Facebook for specific things. So groups that I'm actually part of, like digital nomads in the Philippines, because I wanted to know where I could work, get strong Wi-Fi, and find a remote working community in the Philippines. So I'm part of this. Backpacking South America, South and Central America, my favorite regions on the planet. So I really want to know specific tips. Expats in Australia. I lived in Australia for a year on a working holiday visa. And I'm part of a group also called Americans in Melbourne. Go to that group whenever I needed a little bit of a taste of home or help from back home. So really specific groups. Facebook search kind of functions as like a Google search. So it's really interesting what you can find there. Travel groups, obviously wonderful. It's an excellent place. I've reached out to people using just the chat function before, saying, hey, I'm going to be in town. Would love to meet up if anyone's around. The Nomadic Network, I'm actually a virtual host and I lead the Los Angeles chapter for the Nomadic Network. So we like to have in-person events and virtual events as well. And of course, like Travel Massive, one of the OG ones out there as well. I like to ask friends who they know in that destination, if that is my purpose, to like go out and actually meet people there. Recently, I told a friend that I was going to an Austin FC game in Texas. And I was like, oh, it's the end of summer though. None of my friends will be in town in Austin. So I'm just going to go to the game alone, which I don't mind. Soccer is my favorite sport on the planet. And she actually said, she's like, oh, I have a friend that has season tickets. Do you want me to connect you with him? And maybe, even if he's not going to the game, maybe you can go to like a pregame before that or a bar before or whatever. And I was like, that would be so cool, because I really don't know how I'm going to find anyone else that loves soccer as much as I do, that maybe I could like tag onto the group, but that's fine. I've never been to a soccer game alone. I've always been with friends. So it'll be interesting to see how that all pans out. Reach out on your preferred social media platform of choice. I always do like an Instagram blast and say, hey, who's in Austin, Texas? Like these dates, I'll be in town, would love to meet up. And some other ways that to meet others are a couple free websites, Eventbrite, meetup.com. These are really catered towards, I love them because they really are catered towards bringing kind of like strangers or communities alike communities together. So if there's like a Thai cooking class in LA or a salsa dancing group that you want to check out, I guarantee you it's on Meetup somewhere. Eventbrite and Meetup are free. And I've noticed over the years, Eventbrite is becoming more like find events in your area rather than like businesses using it as a platform to promote their own events. So it's really cool. I was in London last November, and Eventbrite was really targeting me, saying like, oh, these are events in London happening. So I think that's a really cool way as well to just really meet like locals and randoms and other people that are interested in, in what you're interested in. Couch surfing, when I was on it in my year backpacking South America in 2016, it was free. And due to the pandemic, they do need the public support. So they're charging a little bit now. And I just checked, it's like $1.99 a month or $14 for the year. Couch surfing is, I think if you would like to pay the fee, if in addition to any of these, I thought it was great. I found a couple great places to stay in Colombia off couch surfing, really genuine people. It was made by travelers for travelers. So it was a great resource when I used it. It may have, I think the only thing that's really changed about it is I'm sure the interface is better, and then there's a small fee to use it now. But this is how I find people online to meet them in real life whenever I get to a destination or beforehand. And of course, using local resources. I generally stay at hostels. My upcoming trip to Bali will be a mix of hostels and hotels. And using your hostel and hotel concierge, I think, is incredibly underrated. I think people are just like, oh, I'm going to walk around, which I do support, and I will talk about that. But if you're looking for something in particular, I think, oh, what's open this late right now? Or like, where can I get this specific type of thing? Or, I'm looking for a hair salon in Bali, and I found a couple on Google, but of course I'm going to go ask the hotel. I know hair salon in Bali sounds weird, but I'm going to a wedding, right? So I'm like, I want to get my hair done for the wedding. I don't want to carry a curling iron with me. So I'm definitely going to ask the hotel or concierge, do they have any recommendations, whatnot. This is cool. You can even pop into places that you're not staying at. So one example, when I was in Colombia, I stayed in an Airbnb. This is in Cartagena. Stayed in an Airbnb with sisters and friends. And the only way, because I had been backpacking and staying in hostels for so long all year, the only way I knew how to join any other activities was via a hostel. So we were staying in this beautiful Airbnb, but I was like, I'm going to go down to the El Viajero, which is a hostel chain in South America. I'm like, I'm going to go down to El Viajero and book us onto a mud volcano bath because that was the only way I knew how to do it. But they were accepting guests. I mean, they were accepting visitors to sign up for their tours that aren't staying there. So that's also a good way to meet random people as well. Like you can meet people at the hostel, you meet people at the hotel. It's kind of like jumping on a walking tour in any city that you're on, which I found is also one of the greatest ways to meet friends. Is like you'll go out for a drink or a snack after a walking tour or do something else. It's a lot of fun. Nomadic Matt tip, I learned this from him. He also says this underrated: visit tourism board offices or like city offices, which I think is so interesting because he says they're set up for, giving tourists and travelers this type of information on, what to do, where to go, etc. And I think they're a little bit underutilized, especially with the rise of the internet and like all of these social media sites where you can do travel discovery on your own. You might just get some good tips from a tourism board or city office. Ask friends if they want to travel with you. I know it sounds like the opposite of trying to meet people on the road, but sometimes there is that strength in numbers, and sometimes you can gain confidence from being with other people. And this doesn't have to be asking friends from back home to travel with you. This could be if you're on a long trip and you really click with someone and you say, oh, where are you going next or whatnot? And it's like, oh, did you want to travel together? This has happened many times on my trips in Australia, South America. We end up hitting it off as friends, and then we'll jump around to the same few places together. Sometimes it works out because we were planning on going the same way anyway. But I think these people can introduce you to different styles of travel, interests, hobbies, different groups of people, right? So surrounding yourself with different mindsets, always enlightening. I think it's kind of cool to work on our people skills that way, if that's what you want as well. And yeah, that's why we travel, right? To learn about different cultures and people and attitudes around the world. So designing your trip to meet more people, we talked about how you can meet people before you get there. Now let's talk about while you're there. So diving into the local culture, kind of explained this a bit. I know people that head to the grocery store every single time they step foot in a new country, a new city, which I think is really cool. Going to the park and just reading or hanging out, going to like a local festival, finding a local activity. If there's like salsa in the plaza, college campuses. I've been to a few college campuses. Like I've been to Tulane in New Orleans. We just like walked onto campus and I was in college at the time. So it was really cool. It's like, oh, wow, I'm like a transfer student here. I've been to a couple universities in Medellin as well, and they're open campuses. It's so awesome. We just go have snacks, and it's especially interesting, like, just being in a different country where it's not your first language, being on that college campus. It really gives you a glimpse into their daily life. What I like to do, first thing I usually do is go to like a central market, like an open air farmer's market, rather than a grocery store. Same thing, but I figure there's food stalls at the open air market as well. So you can always usually get a meal for a bit cheaper because that's where the locals will go. Build in time to get lost, of course. If you can, hopefully you can. That's always the fun part. I always encourage staying at hostels. I know some are so against it, but I will tell you the hostels these days are like boutique hotels. They're not any of like the creepy hostel movies that you see anymore, like rusty beds, dark dungeons. They're so elevated these days. It's actually insane. And if you don't like it, you can always check out. after a night, honestly. They're pretty flexible like that. It's usually like a 24-hour cancellation policy. My favorite hack is to stay at a nice hostel. I did this a lot in Colombia. Stay at a nice hostel, but because I wanted to like party and go out and meet people, most of these party hostels, their bar was open to anyone that wanted to come in, locals and travelers alike. So I'd stay at a nice hostel, and then across the street was the party hostel, and I'd go hang out there, and then I just like crawl back to my nice, quiet, clean hostel afterwards. And putting yourself in social situations, even if that means doing things alone, because sometimes some people can be intimidated by, excuse me, by numbers. There we go. I wanted to see some faces, so you're back. Conversation starters, these are some that I have used, and I'd love to hear any. I know there's some interesting ones out there, so I'd love to hear them in the chat. Drop them in the chat if you've had a tried and true conversation starter. To me, it's like a dating app. It's so interesting. And because the dating apps, you're not in person, so you have to be extra interesting. But when you're in person with a conversation starter, it's easier because you can use surroundings, right? Like, oh, have you been here before? Or what is that? Do you know what that sign says? Or have you used this material? Blah, blah, blah. Anything random like that. Find common ground. I started a conversation like this because I saw another guy in the elevator that had a Cotopaxi fanny pack, and I just bought the Cotopaxi backpack, and I am a really big believer in the brand now. So I got really excited seeing someone else using something that I had just invested in. Interests, coffee, one of my interests. I'm so excited to like meet other coffee obsessed people, and I think it does take you to a different level when it's like, okay, I love drinking it, but now I want to know, I'm to that point, I'm like, how can I help coffee foundations in other country? Like, how can I educate people on where coffee comes from, how it's farmed, roasted sustainably, those types of things. Like, I'm really interested in getting into the industry side of it. Even surfing, I do not surf, being from LA. No, I don't surf, but that is anything sports related either, like just connecting on interests. I just put a couple examples here. Ask for an opinion on food, drink, activity. That's always easy as well. Like, oh, have you how was the diving course, right? How was it renting your moped from this one? There's one down the way that's also renting XYZ, blah, blah, blah. As in life, and probably a rule in life, a rule in traveling, probably avoid politics, money, and criticism. Can't avoid it all the time. That's just what I follow. So, loneliness on the road. I've seen this topic in quite a few of the forums, Facebook groups I'm in. People are going out, meeting new friends, meeting new people all the time. But, sometimes it's lonely because these people, you meet them for a short time or you meet them for a lifetime, right? So know that these times will arrive, will come and go. I'm glad you're here today because I hope some of what I'm telling you can help you meet folks on the road. And like I said earlier, it's really about being okay with being alone. I think there's a difference between loneliness and being alone, right? So sometimes you do have to be in a certain mindset to be social. And even myself as an introvert, I feel like I've, not that I'm necessarily becoming an introvert. I know you can change, but I've definitely enjoyed, as I mature, I've enjoyed my alone time to kind of reset, right? Like I told you earlier, I used to not know how to like be alone, but now I'm like, okay, I actually like to use this to recharge. It's okay to go to bed early. It's okay to leave the party early. I'm the queen of the Irish goodbye because I know if I don't Irish goodbye, I will get stuck there forever. And I come from a big Filipino family that like, once you say goodbye, it's like a domino effect. No one will let you leave. So sometimes I'm just like, okay, I really need to take myself out of this social situation and I'm out. So yeah, learning to sit with yourself and enjoy your own company and enjoy the things that you're interested in, and maybe some silence and some nature. That is an art, and that can take a lifetime to master. That could be a journey, but it's also a fun one. And then when you're ready, go back out there and meet those people you've been wanting to meet. Keeping friendship alive. Wow. If this isn't like a life lesson that you can just use in everyday life, then I don't know what is. But some of the apps that I use that I'm sure you use to stay in touch with people you've met abroad that maybe you felt you've developed a friendship with, or you've had a connection with. WhatsApp is great. Actually, some of my best friends that live in LA, we exclusively use WhatsApp just because we like it better than like iMessage or texting. Facebook Messenger is great because your social media, like I said here, social media doesn't necessarily change a lot, right? Like whenever I go to a different country, I switch out my SIM card. So people are always like, what phone number do you have now? Social media is a good way of keeping in touch with people. Plan another trip with these friends. I've met some great friends while bartending in Peru. I bartended my way through Peru for 3 months. And that was an experience. I'd never worked any type of service industry before. And I'm like, oh my goodness, this is like a whole different level, because I understand how the camaraderie is built now. And I understand how, people, they're like working towards the same goal, right? And they're dealing with the same thing. So met some of my best friends bartending in Peru, and I've gone with them to Morocco. I visited them in London, they'll come out to LA. So having something to look forward to, I think is always fun, right? Send little things through the mail or post, birthdays, anniversaries, big holidays, etc. I had another tip in here. Oh, checking on important dates. I love this. One of my best friends, when she lived in Miami, she would text her club promoters on Easter and on Christmas and New Year's and say happy holidays, happy whatever on their birthday, to keep her top of mind so that they would always want to get her into the club for free and first in line. And I thought that was so smart, because I'm like, oh, that's just like a networking tip in general as well. Keeping herself top of mind, but being genuine about it. Obviously, she liked these people. She liked how these people helped her out. So I think you can apply that to meeting friends, keeping in touch with them. A simple happy birthday will suffice. It doesn't have to be a grand Instagram post or reel or anything like that. But knowing when those important dates are, congratulating them on things, I think that's important, right? I think keeping in touch like that is showing up, and 50%, I've heard 50% of any relationship, friendship, romantic, etc., is literally showing up, like being present, whether it's through text or at the kid's birthday party, whatever it is. So yeah, those are my main tips. Some stories sprinkled in there. I'd love to connect with you on any platform. I'm LA in Flight. I really hope this helped you a little bit. I know this wasn't like the longest presentation, but I really would love to hear any stories and tips that anyone else has. You can find me Ticket to Anywhere podcast. Literally just search Ticket to Anywhere podcast on Google. Will come up on every listening platform, will come up on YouTube, etc. You can email me, hi@LAinFlight. You can find me LA in Flight, every single social media platform you can imagine, even Pinterest, Yelp, TripAdvisor, like the second tier social media platforms, LA in Flight everywhere. But yes, I love meeting people wherever I go, and I love to encourage others to as well, if that's what they want to do, right? We don't want to do that all the time. Totally understand. But I hope this helped you, and I'm excited to hear from you.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Leah. It was a great presentation. I learned a lot. And like on the other side, I'm personally an introvert. So I think some of your tips work for on the other end of the spectrum as well. And so I'm going to share my screen again in case anyone is interested in joining Leah's newsletter and getting more tips. I'm going to share that. But in the meantime, we have one quick question, and we had a little bit of a discussion around conversation starters. So we can get to that in a second. But can you explain an Irish goodbye?
Oh, yes. An Irish goodbye is literally, well, some people call it the Houdini also. You literally just leave the party without saying bye, which some cultures that can be considered rude. But then I'm like, as I get older, I'm like, I have to in order to not stay for another 45 minutes. And so it's literally just leaving without saying bye to anybody.
Perfect. Thank you. I hope that clarifies. And as my, oops. Okay, so you can probably see my whole screen and all of my tabs. One moment. Put that in present. Okay. Well, as it's deciding to make itself bigger, that if you are interested in joining Leah's travel newsletter, this is the link right here. You can add your email address and get more tips right in your inbox, and that's going to be fantastic. If you have any other questions, go ahead and type them in the chat. Also, we're a pretty small group, so if you feel comfortable and confident unmuting and asking it aloud, that is welcome as well. Feel free. But so just pulling up the chat here. So I have a conversation starter that someone told me that I think is like so funny, especially at hostels when it's an international environment where people don't speak English as a native language. Like, how do you make animal sounds in your native language? And it's really, really funny because like in English, you say like bow wow for a dog or wolf and like meow for a cat, but it's different in all languages. So it's like, and the noises are just so funny. So it's a great way. You're not sharing anything personal. It's a really easy icebreaker and you get to learn some cool, new, funny things.
I want to know what sound, like what interesting sounds have you heard from others, from animals in another language?
Like personally, I can't remember, but like I have a Korean friend and she was telling me like all of the sounds that the animals make. So a cow does not say moo. I cannot remember what a cow says in Korean, but like, it's just such an interesting thing. And I feel like if I ever ask this again, I'm going to take notes so that I can share this in the future with other people because it's just, it's funny. It's unique. It's something I never, ever considered until someone brought it to my attention. So
yep.
Throwing that out there.
Wow, that is an interesting. Yeah, and that's a good call on not sharing personal information. I'm not a very funny person, so I feel like I definitely draw from the surroundings. I like don't know how to crack jokes. I don't know how to flirt, none of that. So my conversation starters are just based on my bubbly personality alone. Animal noises. Yeah. Cross language.
Oh my gosh,
So
and we have a link.
I know.
That's awesome. Okay. And Italian dogs go bow bow and not woof woof. See, we're already look at this. Easy to look them up online. Perfect. So
wow, this is so
have a
cool.
whole conversation on this.
Yeah, really.
And then other good ones that came up while you were talking about conversation starters. Rosalind said, don't ask where you're from, which I totally agree with. That can be like a little bit of overkill, especially if you're traveling a long time and you've told everyone where you're from a million times. And Marika said, like, what did you order? So, because like, I'm interested in getting the same thing. That looks delicious. So along the lines of your tips, Leah, to just draw on the surroundings.
Yeah, 100%. I know some people, especially when you're in hostels, you're around groups of people all the time, or you're kind of like, you're traveling for a long time, you're churning through a bunch of different places. People will kind of get sick of the same conversation over like how long you've been traveling, where are you from. So I think it's smart to kind of come up with different conversation starters. I have certain friends that can come up with crazy conversation starters, but then I'm like, I don't know if I'd feel comfortable asking a stranger that. It's like so like out of left field, and you know, that's their personality. But me, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I could ask someone something that, but yeah, I'm always interested to hear what others have to say.
So moving on from conversation starters, did anyone else have any other questions on getting out and meeting people while traveling? You can feel free to unmute yourself if that feels comfortable for you, or you can go ahead and type it in the chat as well, and I'd be happy to read it aloud.
Or if anyone has any interesting stories or anyone they've met and stayed friends with for years, I always love hearing those and how they randomly met.
Like for me, I reflect sometimes on the people I've met traveling, and there are a number of people that like I've met and then I've seen again. And to me, that's a success. That's a win, because you sort of just like, I think there's like a meme out there. It's like all your Facebook friends like are people you met 5 years ago somewhere random, and you're just like stalking them for the rest of their lives and you never see each other again. But, and like I have those for sure, but it's really exciting when you actually connect on the level that you are friends. You are going to see each other again. You do make plans to travel again. You do run into each other and is like a destination again. So
yeah, it is interesting because some of the friendships have become so strong and lasting now that I've been invited to weddings out of the country because of these friendships that I've made, years prior. So it's really heartwarming to see. And even when I just get a message from someone, I got a message from someone a few weeks ago saying, hey, you're one of my favorite travelers on online. Do you have any advice for this, and this? And I remember it was from a guy I literally met like at the hostel breakfast in Iguazu Falls. And we've just been like in each other's lives via social media. That's it, but I just remember Iguazu Falls, it was a fun couple of days, even though I went to go see Iguazu Falls on my own. But I love how I can pinpoint kind of where I've met these people as well. Cause I think, especially for everyone in a group like this, wonderful travel means a lot to us. So meeting someone that's memorable, it's like, oh yeah, I remember breakfast, the hostel in Iguazu Falls.
That's awesome. And for everyone still here, do you guys have travels coming up that you're thinking of like implementing this, that you are maybe traveling alone and you want to get out and meet people, or you're traveling with friends and you want to meet more people, or is this were you here for future reference? You can let us know in the chat.
Does anyone stay in hostels here? I'd love to know that percentage. And then if you don't, what other ways have you met people? If anything is new, also, I'd love to hear like anything that I didn't mention. I'd love to hear that also. Yeah. Liz nodded her head when I said hostels. Callie, you stay in hostels, right?
Yes, but less.
Are you in an apartment
nowadays.
Right now, right?
I am in an apartment right now.
Okay, yeah.
Yep. And Ashley likes staying in hostels overseas. Yeah. For me, I like privacy. So sometimes I do the private room in a hostel situation.
Yes.
So best of both worlds.
It's like my staying in another hostel next door, but then going out and being social at the hostel across the street. Yeah. Yeah. I know for me, my stay is very based on like how rich I'm feeling at that time. I'm like, do I want to pay the $30 for a private bed, or do I want to pay $10 for a shared dorm room?
Totally. Oh, this is a good story from Liz. I made a friend trying to get into town from an airport once. She was kind of lost and asked if we were going into town too. So we said to come with us, and we got to hang out for the next 2 days. It was great.
Aww,
I love it.
That's so great. Yeah, that you hit it off with someone, you met in the airport, someone that was kind of in maybe a state that they were a little frazzled because they're like, how do you get into town? That's a great story. I have one like that too. One of my friends I still keep in touch with today, actually. I was walking with another friend out of a hostel in Medellin, and it was I think Colombia's Independence Day, and we were going downtown to get jerseys, just like the fake Colombian national team jerseys. We just wanted to like blend in a little bit. and another friend had walked out and he heard us, we were speaking English and he's like, oh, they were both from the US, but the guy I was with and the guy that met us, he's like, oh, he's like, I don't really speak Spanish. So I heard you guys speaking English and I heard you're going downtown. Can I come with you? We're like, yeah, absolutely. And it's 7 years later and I still plan for trips with this friend. And I've visited him in Denver. He's come to see me in Guatemala. So it was cool just by asking like, hey, I want to go get a jersey too. Can I walk downtown with you guys? Like, yeah. So
Love it. You never know. Once you're open to the
you absolutely do
possibilities,
not.
you
Yeah.
just never know. Okay,
100%.
amazing. So guys, I'm going to put the link to Leah's newsletter in the chat one more time if you're interested, and it's going to just give you all her details. So if you want to connect with her after this event, please do that. Follow her, check out her podcast. She's obviously awesome. So thank you again, Leah,
Thanks,
for being
Kelly.
here. Thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for tuning in. It was so great having you here live, and this is a recording. So if you need to go back and reference anything, that will be available for you as well on the wonderful portal. And we hope to catch you at the next event. So see you there. Thank you so
Awesome.
much, everyone.
Thank you,
Really
everyone.
appreciate it.
It was so
And
good to see you. Thanks, Callie.
thanks, Leah.
You're the
All right,
best.
everyone.
Bye.
Goodbye.